Back with you on Hittin Hard with Jon Chuckery here on Locked On Sports Atlanta. Head to youtube.com, put Locked On Sports Atlanta into your search browser. Hit that subscribe button when you find our page. We are free and available on all of your favorite podcast platforms, including Spotify and Odyssey. Leave us a 5-star review when you download us there. And give me a follow on my personal Twitter page at JMCH316. We get ready for Falcons football. Finally, the first preseason game is here as things at camp will start to slow down and finally finding somebody with a different colored hat on and knocking their dung in the dirt and, get ready for the first preseason game Friday night in Detroit. A 6 o'clock start, by the way, an early start in case you're not sure when that is all cranked up and going. So the Falcons released their first unofficial depth chart in planning in this game. So a couple of interesting thoughts on here. One is when you look at the offensive line, it's almost exactly like I figured. Jake is the starter at left tackle. Elijah Wilkinson, the starter at left guard. Lindstrom at right guard. McGarry at right tackle. What's interesting is that, and Arthur Smith keeps talking about this, the center spot. They list Matt Hennessy or Drew Dahlman as the starters. And Arthur Smith spoke about this yesterday, and he's been talking about this. That competition is neck and neck right now. Now, I do think my gut tells me that Drew Dahlman will get the start on Friday, and I think that he is a little bit more of the leader in the clubhouse. Now, again, part of why that this is neck and neck, what do I always say about those two guys, right? When you go on Twitter and you put that GIF thing, right? You hit that little button that's for the GIF, and you put Spitterman into your search right there, and the first thing that pops up is the two Spider-Mans that look exactly the same and they're pointing at one another. Okay, that's Hennessy and Dahlman is what that is. Two undersized centers that are battling for the same position, right? So, look, whoever wins that battle wins that battle out there. My big thing is you can't start Mayfield and Hennessy together. I told you before, you can have one of those guys. You can't have both. Well, Wilkinson's going to be the starting left guard at this point. Literally, since the second day of practice, he has taken every single snap with the first team unit. So, and Arthur Smith has talked about at training camp, Mayfield's got things to work on. But anyway, so maybe I was right about that. Anyway, that's all right. We won't get into all that either. But so that's interesting. Obviously, Mariota is listed as the starter at quarterback, Desmond Ridder. I had Steve Weish on my radio show last night asking him about, do you think Felipe Franks will see any time at quarterback on Friday? He thought no, because, and I agree with him, that they're going to give Desmond Ridder a whole crap ton of reps in this. And I think the thing that's going to be interesting on Friday is what sort of offensive philosophy does Arthur Smith have? Look, they have to find out about their running backs. They have to find out about their offensive line, but they also have to find out about their quarterbacks and their wide receivers. So are they going to throw it more? Are they going to run it more? I think just what the Falcons' game plan is for Friday is going to be very interesting thus far. So also the starters at wide receiver are interesting as well, because right now Kadero Hodge and Olamide Zaccheaus are listed as your starters on offense at wide receiver. Now, I think that will change, but what's interesting to me, and this doesn't mean anything for where the season is going to head, but one group of wide receivers has Hodge, then Allison is the backup, then Bird, Tate, Drake London, and Tyshawn James as the reserves. The next group of wide receivers has Zaccheaus Edwards as the backup, Frank Darby, Cameron Batson, Stanley Berryhill, Jared Bernhardt, who, by the way, is the former National Lacrosse Player of the Year, the Heisman Trophy equivalent of a lacrosse player, if I could speak out of all of it. But interesting where some of those wide receivers are listed right now. Now, again, Drake London is going to start. You don't draft a guy at number 8 in the draft and then put him 4th as your wide receiver. And I know we can talk about competition, all this, but, man, you don't have the 8th pick of the draft sitting on your bench because of some, philosophy that you have or whatever like that. Now, we'll talk about the defensive side of the ball here in just a second. But first, let me talk about my wonderful folks over at Built Bar, Built.com. We've talked about the marshmallow puffs, the protein-infused marshmallow puffs, how good those things are. The coconut brownie chunk Built Bar is the new flavor that they've got over there. I've told you before, look, I've tried this. It's fantastic. I love the s'mores. I'm going to be honest with you. S'mores is my flavor. And again, I'm above 9 years old. I'm not for cooking s'mores, but the flavor and the taste of the s'more, the marshmallow puff s'mores, fantastic. Try that. I'm telling you, you won't go wrong out of all of that. But look, we know how good these things are. You got the 100% chocolate coated marshmallow puffs and the coconut brownie chunk, right? Low sugar, low carb, but high protein for you. You're looking for that snack. I'm telling you, the marshmallow puffs are the way to go. So I want you to head over to built.com, check out the wide selection of all the different products, all the different bars, marshmallow puffs, all the different things that they have available to you at built.com. And when you put that order together, okay, get your bars, get your puffs, get this, get that, beep, bada, boop, bada, bop, right? When you get that order put together, when you get to checkout, I want you to use the coupon code LOCKED15. That's LOCKED, the number 1, the number 5, LOCKED15, and you're going to get 15% off your order when you use the promo code LOCKED15. So go to built.com today, search through their wide, extensive line of products that they have. Check out the marshmallow puffs. I'm telling you, the s'mores is the way to go on all of that. Check that out. Then when you get into the checkout, use that coupon code LOCKED15, LOCKED, the number 1, the number 5, the number 1, the number 5, and you'll get 15% off that order at built.com. Promo code LOCKED15. Head over to built.com today. Now, on the defensive side of the football, a couple of things that are interesting. Right now, your defensive line, Grady, Anthony Rush, and Taquan Graham as your starters. Marlon Davidson is listed as a backup along with Jalen Dalton and Nick Thurman. Outside linebacker is interesting because Lorenzo Carter's on one side, but Ogundeji is the other listed outside linebacker. And he's had a good camp, and they want to feature him more. Now, Arnold Ebiketie is listed as a backup. I do believe he's going to start in the regular season, but they've also said that, and I've read some things that have talked about that, you know, he's maybe been a little bit slower in adjusting to the NFL life and things like that, like catching on and stuff like that. So I'm not going to be surprised if Ebiketie has to work himself through the preseason, and then come game 1, I think that he will start. Your inside backers, Michael Walker, Rashaan Evans, no real surprise there, right? Kwiatkowski, Dorian Etheridge are listed as the backups. Hawkins and Grant, my favorite guys, my safeties, they're listed as the starters. Thank God, because I don't want to see Eric, with all due respect to Eric Harris, nice guy, veteran in the league. Can I tell you, I don't want to see Eric Harris on the field. I unless there's an injury or whatever. And I understand, look, you need a whole bunch of corners and safeties, right? But can I tell you, Eric Harris does nothing for me. Zero. That group last year, Fabian Moreau and, you know, Eric Harris and that group of safeties. Oh, God. Can I tell you, I've seen all I need to see about Eric Harris, okay? Cool that he's on the team, fine, all that. Yeah, Daron Harmon, the other guy. And, oh, my God. All that. It just puts bile in my throat when I think about how bad all of those guys are. So hopefully we're not going to see much of Harris out there. Obviously, Hayward and Terrell. Also interesting is just the fact that Avery Williams is listed as the kick returner. We've talked before. Patterson wants to run kicks back. I think they're going to want Avery Williams to do more of that, but it'll be interesting to see if Patterson can get his way and find his way into grabbing a few kickoffs and things like that. The other thing that is interesting about this first depth chart is when you look at the inside linebackers, one group has Rashaan Evans, Dorian Etheridge, and Nathan Landon. Another group is Michael Walker, Nick Kwiatkowski, Rashad Smith, and then Troy Anderson listed as a reserve. Now, we told you on this show that I don't think Anderson, even though he's a second-round pick, I don't think he's going to start. And I think he's going to have a lot of that Richie Grant type of transition in the NFL. I think by the end of the year, he's going to work himself into the starting rotation of linebackers, and he will obviously play a lot. But I will tell you, and I've said this before, he is going to make his bones early on in the NFL as a special teams player. I know a lot of folks don't want to hear that a second-round draft pick is on special teams, and that's where he's making his way. But I think that's the plan for Troy Anderson. Look, he looks good. He looks good out there on the field, okay? He's going to be an asset. He's a tremendous athlete. But I think that given the level of competition and just his adjustment, that they're going to work him in slow. Don't expect Anderson to start the year as one of your inside linebackers, even being a second-round draft pick. All right, when we come back, my thoughts on the first coaches poll that has been released in college football. We'll talk about that next. It's Hittin' Hard with Jon Chuckery, Locked on Sports Atlanta.